News Central now, this hour begins in West Africa, where the Nigerian government announced that it has started allocating 8,925 houses to deserving applicants across the country under the National Housing Program, NHP. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, Ogunbiyi, made this announcement in a statement released in Abuja. On the 1st of November 2023, the federal government set aside 50 billion naira to finance the construction of 40,000 units of housing under the Renewed Hope agenda. The first batch of the allocation process has already been completed after conducting a thorough review of the conditions and procedures involved in the sale of houses under the NHP. Let's also tell you that the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment in Nigeria says it's begun disbursement of the Presidential Conditional Grant Scheme to verified applicants after an exhaustive selection process. The government, through the Bank of Industry, has said it would be disbursing 3 categories of funding, totaling 200 billion naira to support manufacturers and businesses across the country. In a progress report posted on the Trade Minister's official X handle on Tuesday, Doris Aniete stated that an unspecified number of beneficiaries have received their grants, adding that by Friday, April 19th, another significant disbursement will be made to a substantial number of verified applicants. This is coming more than 8 months after President Bola Tinubu announced a grant for manufacturers and small businesses. Following the strange death of a naval cadet officer of the Nigeria Defense Academy, Kaduna, at Hotel Royal Damgate a week ago, the family and community of the deceased are calling for an inquest into the death. They want answers to many questions arising from the unfortunate situation. Our correspondent, Chiwo Gele, has been following this development. We'll bring you that details in the course of the news bulletin. Education stakeholders in Nigeria have blamed on governed spaces, lack of access to telecommunication network, and poor infrastructure for the failure to achieve any meaningful progress in Nigeria's Safe School Initiative program. And this was as they met in the nation's capital, Abuja, to review the initiative expected to guarantee a safe learning environment for children in the country. Marvelous Obomano reports.
10 years after the Chibok school abduction, the memories of pain and despair remain fresh. Many families say they are yet to recover from the ordeal, while the Chibok community has been left deserted. To end these attacks, the federal government launched the Safe School Initiative. However, 10 years down the line, stakeholders say the program has not recorded much success.
Another challenge is that schools are either at the entrance or at the high end of the community. So basically, they are not in the middle of the community.
None of the schools, to my knowledge, that have been attacked so far, none of them were registered. But that does not mean that because they are not registered, they should not be protected. I'm only saying that there is need for us to register them so that we can have timely information.
They say, out of the 21 minimum standards set for its successful implementation, only a few schools are even able to achieve a 70% benchmark.
On average, states are implementing about 9 of the 21 minimum standards. So less than half of the minimum standards are actually being implemented. They're doing very well on the training of school-based management committees, on violence in schools, but the areas where they're really struggling are around safe school infrastructure, so making sure there's a lockable fence, there's a gate.
Schools are in open spaces, and there is a huge need to surround the schools and to invest in this. And this is the type of investments that are easy to address at the state level.
The plan was actually launched in 2022, and the federal government made provision of 15 billion, although released the 15 billion in 2023 for effective implementation. And we started implementation late last year.
We surveyed 81,000 plus schools, or 70% of them had no fences. Another 70 of SEPs or even more had nobody as security guard that is guarding the school.
These abductions, according to some Nigerians, have raised concerns on the future of education in the country. They say government at all levels must give the program the needed push to herald a new dawn in Nigeria's education sector. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Obonman.
You're watching News Central now. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned. The Kano State chapter of the All Progressives Congress State Working Committee has suspended ward party leaders who earlier suspended the national chairman of the party, Abdullahi Ganduje, from the party. The APC ward in Dokan Tofa local government area had suspended the party's national chairman, Ganduje, on Monday, but in the swift reaction, the party thwarted the suspension and sacked those behind the suspension of Ganduje. The state party chairman, Inusa Dawana, said that those behind the suspension of Ganduje were caught in anti-party activities and their records of meeting with the opposition were exposed. The State Working Committee adopted the suspension of the ward's APC leaders. It, however, clarified that Ganduje's suspension is invalid, null and void, and cannot stand. And joining me on the news to unpack this is a public affairs analyst, Ismail Owal. Good evening. Glad to have you join me.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
All right. Let me start by asking your thoughts on the suspension of the APC national chairman, and that's Abdullahi Ganduje.
Okay, thank you very much, and good evening all the viewers. Actually, there is a lot of drama going on within the All Progressive Congress Party here in Kano, and also the state in general. People want to see what will happen at the national level, and just like anybody in Canada, also want to see what is going to happen, the response from the national level. And just a few minutes to this interview, I think just a minute ago, I have seen a response of the APC National Party, and it has disassociated itself from the sack of the former governor of the state, Abdullahi Ganduje. But what is more interesting is actually, it's not only about the sack, it's seeing what is going to happen tomorrow at the court, because I don't know if people are following up, they will know that Abdullahi Ganduje and his family are supposed to appear before the court tomorrow to defend some of the allegations, corruption allegations painted against him by the state anti-corruption agency. So I believe the series of events that happened from Monday to today has a link to what is going to happen at the court tomorrow. So I think we are all still in suspense. We are all waiting to see what is going to happen from now to the next 24 hours.
But do you think the ward that suspended Ganduje have the authority to do so under the APC rules? I mean, is there a proper procedure for suspending high-ranking officials?
Of course, they have all the right to suspend anybody that is their member, because Ganduje is from Ganduje ward, and there is an APC in that particular ward. So they have all the right to suspend any member of the party. The chairman of that ward can suspend anybody that belongs to the party in that particular ward. He has all the right to do so. The only bone of contention is if that was done right way. That's the only bone of contention. But they have all the right to suspend. So even the president, a party can suspend even the president that is their member in the ward level. So they have all the right to do that.
But how do you think the APC will address these corruption allegations against Ganduje? I mean, will they investigate? How will they handle his position as the national chairman?
Yes, that's exactly what I said. We are all watching to see what's going to happen. There was an injunction from the Federal High Court, I think somewhere around last year or early this year, that the State High Court don't have, the only person that can investigate a former governor is the Accountant General of the Federation, or something like that. So there was that injunction from Federal High Court, and again, the chairman of the Kano State Public Complaint Anti-Corruption Commission, Barrister Wimagadu, who was reappointed by Ganduje, the same person in question, is still pushing very hard. So we are going to see what is going to happen at the court tomorrow. will the court stick to the injunction by the Federal High Court that a state high court don't have the authority to investigate the governor or not? If the court continue with the investigation, then it's going to be a very, very big baggage on the APC, because this is your national chairman being charged for 7 corruption charges, which include around the figure which include around $413 million $1,000. So, and also the president has been talking about him fighting anti-corruption. The administration has been talking about fighting corruption. So it's going to be a very big baggage on them. It's either they go with the award level injunction to suspend him to allow the investigation to go on smoothly, or the former governor is going to be a very, very big baggage on them. And we are really waiting. We are really waiting, actually, in suspense to see what is going to be the reaction. Just like I mentioned earlier, the National Party has responded to the sacking news just a few minutes ago. I have read a press release by the National Publicity Secretary, and he said that the party chairman, Adebola, will still remain their party chairman, and the sack was being sponsored by the present governor of Kano State and his party. So that's the response from the APC national, the office at national level, and we see how the presidency is going to respond also.
Well, you talked about investigations being, going on, and also a court case tomorrow. But all of these issues within the APC, I'm wondering, how can they maintain unity within the party?
Well, I think in Kano, maybe there's something going on which I will need to give an explanation. The chairman of the Public Complaint and Anti-Corruption Commission, Barrister Muhima was last week suspended by the Court of Conduct Tribunal, last CCT, and they asked the Kano State government to suspend him, which, of course, the judgment has been appealed by both the state government and also the chairman. Just 24 hours later, after that suspension, that's when the state government or the Public Complaint and Anti-Corruption Commission pressed these 7 charges on the present governor. So you can say, for me, actually, the two are linked. Maybe it's a response from the state government or from Barrister Muhima Gajiri. It's a response for the suspension, and he now decided to bring out these charges on the governor, because these people in his group believe that the suspension is being promoted by the APC chairman, Abdullah Umar Ganduje. But generally, the APC in Kano State, for now, is still very, very united, if not of this faction that was created at the world level. But you can see all of them, all the party membership in Kano are very, very united. And the party has also made an announcement that it has suspended these guys that suspended the party chairman for 6 months. So, and all of this, the Gwanjadi, that's the person that made the person that made the announcement, were just a number. If you look at their number, they were not up to 10 members of the party that announced the suspension. So I don't think that will create a serious disunity among APC in Kano. And also looking at the fact that, yes.
Well, I wish we had more time, but thank you so much for your insight on the news. Public affairs analyst Ismail Owal, thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.
A political interest group in the All Progressives Congress, APC, has condemned the purported sacking of the national chairman of the party, Alhaji Umar Ganduje. The group under the umbrella of the APC National Vanguard described the sacking as a political coup orchestrated by desperate individuals outside the party who are envious and felt threatened by Ganduje's rise in profile. The group said it understands that such calls and attempts to illegally sack the chairman can only be contemplated by anti-democratic forces and those who seek the fall of the APC party. It, however, called on Governor Abba Kabiru Yusuf of Kano State to call his supporters to order and warn those that have been hired as mercenaries to threaten Nigeria's democracy and causing strife within the APC to be ready to face justice.
We reiterate our condemnation of the purported sack of His Excellency Alhaji Umar Ganduje as the national chairman of the APC. We expose the legal loophole in the alleged suspension, highlighting the fact that those who address the press conference are not card-carrying members of our party, which in regard of this elevation makes the purported suspension null and void and would have no any effect on the national chairman. We further express our happiness at the good news that we, the ward and the local government executives, having identified the persons involved in this unfortunate situation, have already prepared to charge them to court for impersonation and calculated attempt to embarrass and dent the image of the party and that of the national chairman. We also issue a stern warning to those outside the APC who seek to join the party, urging them to do so in a manner that upholds honor, civility and democratic values we hold dear.
The former governor of Kaduna State, Nasiru El-Rufai, says Nigerian government is spending about 8 trillion naira on petrol subsidies. He made a revelation during a workshop on enhancing skills of government officials, which took place in Maiduguri on a Monday. Our correspondent, Umaru Kirawa, has details.
Skills of government officials being enhanced in policy implementation and productive human resources management in Borno State. Leadership and public policy, navigating challenges and lessons is the topic which participants listening to garner more experience. Local solutions to local problems is what the lead paper presenter is advocating for.
People are not happy with the federal government. People want their destiny in their hands. People want more power devolved to the states and to the local governments so that they can solve their local problems. People want state police. I think it was Borno State that started civilian jet here, and that was the first time that a handle on solving the security problems began to emerge. Only a local person knows who is the local criminal.
He spoke on one of the burning issues in Nigeria, removal of subsidy from petrol.
It is important to always have policies and to debate them, and if they are wrong, you reverse. For instance, as you announced withdrawal of fuel subsidy on 29th of May. Well, believe it or not, fuel subsidy is back. Because we are spending more on subsidy now, about 8 trillion, than before 29th of May, because we realize that you cannot withdraw fuel subsidy if your exchange rate is not stable. You just have hyperinflation, so they have to reverse. So no policy is cast in stone. It's not written in the Quran. If you start implementing and there are problems, modify it, drop it, reverse it.
Leadership deficit, according to Malam El-Rufai, is what needs to be improved upon to address some of the major headache the country is experiencing. Several speakers during the workshop shared their thoughts on the concept of leadership.
We are going to get a bumper harness from wealth of this experience and ultimately get value for our efforts.
Most of these policies are not understood by the public, but you being part of it will explain to your colleagues in the settlements.
The visit by Malam El-Rufai to Borno State will be discussed more in political cycles in coming days, as some loud whispers suggest this may be the beginning of the race for the next elections in 3 years' time. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
You're live with News Central TV. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Let's also tell you that Nigeria's inflation rate surged to a new high of 33.2% in March 2024, a 1.5% increase from February. This marks a slower month-on-month rise by 1.5% compared to February, 1.8%, but a significant 11.16% increase year-on-year. Food prices remain a major driver, reaching 40.01% inflation, driven by rising cost of staples like garri, yam, and millet. Urban areas were hit harder, with inflation reaching 35.18% year-on-year compared to 31.45% in rural areas. Core inflation, excluding volatile items like food and energy, also rose significantly, reaching 25.90% year-on-year in March. And to unpack this, I'm joined on the news by Abubakar Umar, a financial analyst. Good evening. Glad to have you join me.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Yes, could you share with us what factors are currently driving Nigeria's high inflation rate, particularly the significant rise in food prices? Are there any global or domestic events contributing to this rise?
Thank you very much. As you know, Nigerians are actually deeply concerned, considering we understand that the inflation in the country is exchange rate is also one of the major things that push the inflation. And Nigerians are concerned now that inflation is actually exchange rate is moving down, and then inflation has continue going up. I think if you understand what is driving inflation in Nigeria, majorly is the CPI, which is consisting of energy basket, the cost of transportation, which is also driven by the fuel costs in the market. So those items, the food, transportation, which is also driven by fuel, it's one of the things that is actually pushing inflation higher. And the easy way to solve this kind of problem is that to ensure that the cost of our fuel has been steady for long. And then Nigerians are so eager to understand that the exchange rate that has moved down will actually go up. And this is a major thing to concern. The reason is that when exchange rate is down, it's actually the effect or the positive effect of it will have to be lagging. So, and then if it's lag, then that means the positive net reduction you have on your foreign exchange rate will be affected on the next, quarter or next month that we have. But then we have a very serious concern again, considering there is a rise in the cost of electricity. And instead of for us to begin seeing adjustment in the cost of food that is coming in that April and May, we have a tariff that was increased to around 220, and that alone will actually trigger manufacturers to adjust their costs in one side of the day, which will make your inflation in April to be something again unfavorable. So those are the issues that we are facing for the meantime. But then the food prices that we have, definitely it's going to take effect. We are going to see a reduction. It might not be significant, as considering that reduction in prices, it's something that marketers are not somehow always welcoming. It is just like fixing something tends to be very difficult and take time than destroying. So this is the situation we are actually facing with regard to that inflation.
Quite a number of issues you have highlighted. But a slowdown in month-on-month inflation suggests a potential peak. Do you think this trend is likely to continue?
I would like to say it will likely continue, but then I have to, consider the cost of energy. Energy is a very critical aspect, and sometimes to the perceptions of producers, because when you look at the increase in the cost of energy, on one side there is argument that it will increase cost of production because cost of power has tripled. That is acceptable, but then when you look at the other side of argument, if a potential manufacturer is actually using a diesel to produce, and then he has a constant 20-hour of power, when you compare the two costs together, you realize that there's a reduction in the cost of the energy that is spent to produce. But again, oftentimes, because entrepreneurs tend to make profit, even if there is a reduction in the cost of energy because of him using electricity, he will want to either maintain the selling price level, which means you cannot see reduction in the price of goods and services he is selling to the end user. So we come to about the issue of human psychology, to how they react to change in prices. So I think the major thing we expect is that we have seen, based on the report, that the inflation is slowing down, which is a good thing, of course. So the first thing is that you have to get a slowdown whereby your month-on-month increase will stop increasing. And then when you have a stoppage of the increase, then you now begin to target reduction. Because the way we are eager to see reduction, it might not necessarily come very early. It might come at a later time. If we sustain and improve on the current gains that we are now witnessing through the reduction, the exchange rate that is, the Naira gaining strength over time.
Let's talk a bit about the dichotomy between the urban and rural area with respect to inflation. Data shows a wider inflation gap between urban and rural areas. Could this be caused by, what are the causes of this disparity? And then what are the potential consequences for Nigerians living in these areas?
When you look at the urban and the rural, you can see the urban is actually a cost push inflation that is actually moving. And I think the basic example I will give you is that what is happening in the rural area is akin to what happened in last year when they tried to implement, cashless policy. In the rural area, they have short of cash. They do not have money to actually buy those goods, which means either you are going to sell that good at a price that people can actually afford, or you risk losing the products, which is not going to be the same with the urban area where there are people who has money that no matter what's the price you put, there are those that are going to patronize. So I think those kind of issues are the two dichotomy that make it between the urban and rural area. And then I was also seeing reports that in some areas the price of rice has also reduced by 15 to 20,000 or so. So in rural area they have to tame the market in a way that the volume will go, because if you put at a price that they do not have, you are going to have a problem. I think what I'm trying to explain here is the issue between demand and cost push inflation in those two kind of scenario. So what happened to us in times of cashless policy, where people do not have cash, and we see people reducing the price of their goods in order to make sure they have solid, is akin to what may happen in the rural area, not indirectly in different, but then people in rural area do not have the same income base as opposed to those in the urban area. So you cannot put a price of somebody in the urban area who is earning a high significant income to that person that is also earning lower income in the rural area, and then expect them to patronize your goods.
Thank you so much for your expertise on the news. Abubakar Umar, financial analyst. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much.
U.S. Consulate Public Affairs Officer Julie McKay paid a courtesy visit to News Central TV as part of her ongoing efforts to engage with key media leaders and institutions across the country. The visit was an opportunity for the public affairs officers to interface with members of News Central's top management team, including the managing director, and discuss plans, programs, and collaboration which will be eventually mutually beneficial to both parties. Our correspondent Bernard Akede has more.
The relationship between the U.S. Consulate in Nigeria and News Central Media Limited has grown beyond just cordial. However, this visit by the Public Affairs Officer, Julie McKay, to News Central's facility has taken the relationship to a new level. Accompanied by the Nigeria representative of the U.S. Agency for Global Media, Mohammed Abba, the envoy shared valuable insights and opportunities for joining the rapidly growing multimedia affiliate network of the Voice of America, VOA, that offers a wide range of program and content options.
And there is also the Straight Talk Africa. The Straight Talk Africa talks about some of the issues that relates to Africans. The program is not going anywhere. It has been there for a number of years, and it has a very strong followership. So many affiliates kind of, air this program because of how it relates to Africa.
In a meeting with top management of News Central, issues such as exchange programs, mutually beneficial content, training opportunities, as well as investigative journalism and the forthcoming U.S. elections, amongst others, were discussed.
That Africa has shaped the past, it's shaping the present, and it will absolutely shape the future. And so Nigeria, as the biggest country, democracy, economy, is a natural partner for the U.S. government and for the United States.
News Central's managing director and editor-in-chief Kayode Akintemi informed the guests about some of the achievements of News Central. He also briefed them about some of the interesting projects the company is currently working on.
I'm happy that at least we have you here to work with so that it's easier accessing VOA. Definitely, there are so many reports that we would love to have somebody in VOA that can speak to us. Some kind of arrangement. Because of our primary focus, which I know for a fact is not the primary focus of most of the media houses, especially the news television stations in Nigeria. Investigative journalism and developmental journalism are expensive for anybody to do. And they're not, pardon my language, they're not the sexy journalism or sensational journalism that you will find online in most cases. So it's hard work with very limited return on that investment financially, but it is extremely critical to the growth and development of any community or democracy within a country. They're very critical.
When discussions were over, the envoy went on a tour of the entire new central facility, after which the team left convinced that the collaboration of both parties will bring about premium brand modern-day journalistic content. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
The continuous increase in the price of data and cable television subscription has been a major concern for many Nigerians. This has brought about a call on the federal government by the Association of Telephone, Cable TV and the Internet Subscribers of Nigeria to break the monopoly of cable television networks. They said this would create a level playing field for others who want to play in the sector. Nigerians are also urging the federal government to regulate telecom companies to provide quality and affordable data for consumers while making the protection of consumers its top priority. Our correspondent, Omolola Ololade, tells us more.
Despite boasting a less than 50% broadband penetration, Nigeria's data usage increased by 413.79% as 41.38 million subscribers joined the nation's internet population in 4 years, according to data from the Nigerian Communications Commission. Although Nigeria's internet data usage increased from 68,154 terabytes in 2018 to 350,165 terabytes in 2021, according to statistics from the Nigerian Communications Commission. And 3 years down the line, Nigerians continue to bear the brunt of paying excessively to gain access to the internet. Besides the exorbitant prices of data, some Nigerians say contending with the rising cost of subscriptions to cable TV, especially because of the present economic situation, is not a joke.
Recently, I tried to subscribe 7,600, and they said they've increased the plan to 12,000 or thereabouts. And after even paying the 12,000, they're still telling me that is not the highest package. There are still other packages. I cannot even watch Premier League, which made me to pay that amount.
For the 5,000 I spent, they would say 25 gig for 5,000 or 40 gig for like 5,000, but it doesn't last.
However, the Association of Telephone, Cable TV and Internet Subscribers of Nigeria, in a bid to reduce tariffs for cable TV and internet subscriptions, urged the federal government to encourage indigenous television stations to break the monopoly of some of these cable televisions.
The monopoly of DSTV and GoTV is too much. Challenging the federal government that should break that monopoly and they should give opportunity to the indigenous company to come on board.
The idea of recharge your phone or you want to make call and you are saying hello, nobody is hearing you and your money is going out. Well, that era has to stop. The telecom service provider has to improve on their services to Nigeria.
While the Nigerian Communications Commission earlier announced plans to introduce measures to curb data depletion due to complaints from consumers, many Nigerians believe there is a need for further scrutiny of the activities of the telecoms industry and cable television networks by the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission.
Coming up, Togolese opposition alleges constitutional changes are presidential power grab. We have details after the break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. News Central now continues in West Africa, where the opposition in Togo has announced a proposed new constitution as a power grab intended to extend the reign of President Faure Gnassingbe. The reforms would see Togo move from a presidential to a parliamentary system. However, the opposition says they are a ruse to keep Gnassingbe already in his fourth term in power. The president's supporters say the changes would reduce the powers of the head of state by transforming the presidency into a ceremonial role. Human Rights Minister Yawad Jodi Segan says they would improve democracy in the country. The Sigbe came into power in 2005 after the death of his father, who had been president since 1967. When I head to the east, where hundreds of hospital doctors joined the demonstration in the street of Kenyan capital Nairobi on Tuesday as a nationwide strike by medics neared its fourth week. About a dozen riot police and the pickup trucks monitor the protest, which was not authorized by the authorities. Members of the 7,000-strong group, Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, have been on strike since March 13th to demand better pay and working conditions, disrupting the healthcare at the country's 57 public hospitals. Wearing white lab coats and blowing horns and whistles, the doctors chanted "Solidarity Forever" as they marched to the Health Ministry, where they blocked the entrance gates.
I must say that the healthcare in this country as we speak is in shambles. And that is a clear indication of the foot-dragging attitude of the government in solving this crisis. We feel that the government doesn't care. The government is celebrating in meetings, in seminars, and in conferences while Kenyans are dying, while doctors and healthcare workers are on the streets. They are all not on the streets because they love being on the streets. They are on the streets because there's a swelling disillusionment in the hospitals. And as a union, we are saying that we have seen a lot of threats coming left, right, and center from every corner. But we want to put it out very clearly that as unions, we will not be cowards. We will not be intimidated. We will not be frustrated back to work.
In a story of survival and resilience, a genocide survivor who witnessed unspeakable horrors during one of the darkest chapters in the human history says he survived genocide 5 times. He recounts the events of the 1994 atrocities that left more than 250 people dead.
They're in the church, but people fleeing because of 2 different reasons. So we had the families of perpetrators who are committing genocide, them living with us in the church. So sometimes we would have then their children, their sons coming in the church, searching whoever's still alive amongst the Tutsi families that they had been killing outside, and finding some alive, and some still alive, and next day they would come and then take them out and kill them. And the father, the priest of the church, as the time went on, had become quite open and very positive to that. Then the church saw it was not safe, because after killing people in the first place, they followed us in the church still the next day after 23rd, and they selected quite a good number of men that had survived. They learned my name and they confused me and my brothers. They thought I was killed while I was still alive, and so I was selected like 5 times within the place to be killed, and each and every time they would either kill someone in front of me or maybe taking people out of the church to be killed. So we lived in this kind of like agony psychologically, but also physically. People are starving.
The UN's nuclear watchdog, International Atomic Energy Agency, says it is worried Israel could target Iranian nuclear facilities. This comes after Israel's military chief, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, vowed Israel will respond to Iran's missile and drone attack despite international pressure to exercise restraint amid concerns of a wider conflict erupting in the Middle East. IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi said Iran closed its nuclear facilities on Sunday over security considerations, but reopened on Monday. When asked about the possibility of an Israeli strike on Iranian nuclear facility, he said the UN is concerned about the possibility, but called for extreme restraint. Earlier, News Center's correspondent Afia Hagan spoke to us on these developments.
Well, Israel has promised that there will be a response to that attack by Iran. And of course, that attack by Iran was leveled because Israel killed one of their top people in their army on April the 1st. So Iran retaliated. Now, Israel's war cabinet have been in discussions much of yesterday and into this morning. Now, it's unclear how they will proceed, but they will proceed. Now, much of the attack that happened over the weekend from Iran into Israel was thwarted by the Iron Defense campaign and also by allies from UK, France, and the US, from airplanes shooting down some of those missiles. Now, Israel's war cabinet, like I said, have been meeting. They are unclear about the military action that they will take, but they have promised that they will take military action at a time.
The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has established a new template for the supply of crude oil in Nigeria. The development is to boost the activities of local refineries as well as ensure the availability of petroleum products. The CEO of NUPRC, Gbenga Komolafe, who disclosed this during a press briefing in Abuja, said the move was in alignment with Nigeria's commitment to bolster its domestic refining capacity and ensure the sustainability of its oil industry. He explained that as of January 1st, 2024, Nigeria's crude oil reserve was at 31.56 billion barrels, while condensate reserve stood at 5.94 billion barrels, amounting to a total of 37.50 billion barrels. He also stated that the associated gas reserves were 102.59 trillion cubic feet and non-associated gas reserves stands at 106.67 TCF, resulting in total gas reserves of 209.26 TCF. And now to sports stories. Barely 8 months to the end of the year, the African soccer ruling is set to decide on the two major competitions slated for the year. Morocco is touted to be the host for the 2024 Women's African Cup of Nations, but awareness and hype seem to have gone down since the country secured the hosting right of the 2025 African Cup of Nations. Some certain sections believe that the women's tournament will not come up again this year, while some are expecting a change in the host. The trio of Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, who have been handed the hosting right of the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations, have also been handed the hosting right of the 2024 Championship of African Nations. But up till now, the draw and qualifiers are yet to be decided upon, and the situation is suggesting that the competition may be cancelled again. CAF on Tuesday morning confirmed that it would hold a crucial meeting on the 19th of April 2024 to decide the fate of the two tournaments. Former Liverpool midfielder Naby Keita has been suspended by the Werder Bremen until the end of the season. Bremen head of the football Clemens Fritz alleged on Saturday that the 29-year-old refused to travel for the club's Bundesliga clash with Bayer Leverkusen after discovering he had been omitted from the matchday squad. Keita refuted the accusation in a response on Instagram, claiming Fritz was attempting to tarnish his image. Bremen announced on Tuesday that Keita has been suspended for the rest of the season and handed a substantial fine. A combination of injuries and Africa Cup of Nations duty with Guinea has limited Keita to just 5 appearances in all competitions this term. And that's all on the news, but before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Nigerian government begins disbursement of presidential conditional grants. Hundreds of Kenyan doctors rally in support of strike over improved working conditions. Togolese opposition alleges constitutional changes are presidential power grab. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.